Hey folks, what's happening? Welcome to another show, Scott and Matt podcast. Scott, what's happening, man? How you been? What's new?
Doing good. Just got back from Iceland about a week ago, and it's been trying to get some work done before my next trip out this Sunday, where I'm heading to Oregon. How about you?
Nice. I'm up in Massachusetts at the moment, and came up from Florida about when was it? Beginning of June. Came up for a 10K trail run up in Philadelphia. Visited some friends, hung out with some family, and now I'm up in near the Boston area, Massachusetts, a little bit closer towards Rhode Island, hanging out with a friend. Back to Miami next week, and then out to Portland a couple days later to WDS, World Domination Summit.
I know. I'll see you there. It'll be good times.
Yeah, the last time I haven't seen you in person. I feel like I see you in person all the time, but I haven't seen you in person for a while. Nice.
I haven't really felt your presence in so long,
Gotta get the good old handshake in.
Skype just doesn't encompass all that you are.
So, what prompted your trip to Iceland? What sparked
My
your
dad's
interest?
always go there for a while. And every other year or so, I usually join him on a little trip, like 2 weeks or so. And so it's been in the works for about a year or so. We went over there.
You thought about this for a while.
Well, he did. We always go with the same company. It's like a package tour type thing, which most of the time I shy away from, but he likes it. He likes just kind of paying a little bit more and having everything worked out, which I admit there's some good points to it, especially if you're just going to be there for a certain amount of time and you want to see a lot of stuff. It's great to have someone already just like plan it all out for you.
And
I had a really great time.
I interrupted. Go ahead.
I would say I had a really good time. The food was amazing, blew me away. Like the fresh seafood, the salted cod, and everything. The lobster soup, it's really good. Really fresh seafood. I was eating fish about once a day. The landscape was amazing. The weather was so-so. It's a little bit colder this year than usual, just like most of Europe and even America.
So you were there. You were there in June, and just because it's close to the Arctic Circle, you get.
Yeah, it was in the 50s or about 10 Celsius for our non-Fahrenheit watchers, and a little bit rainy at times. But I think that, heck, it's Iceland, right? You have to expect some of that stuff. So
Yeah.
we had pretty good luck as far as it came to weather. Like, so there were some days it went up to 20, which is, like 70 degrees almost. Yeah. So, we kind of went around the island in a bus and explored the north up to Akureyri. Went whale watching, didn't see any whales, unfortunately.
So all the way up to the north of Iceland, because Iceland is quite
almost
it's
to the north.
It's like a tall.
Yeah, so the very northernmost island is actually on the Arctic Circle. We didn't go up there, but we were about 40 miles away, I believe, where we were from that island. So about 40 miles south of the Arctic Circle. You could see the island, so it was pretty close.
Sweet.
And then I continued on my own with a friend of mine, rented a car, and we went through the south of Iceland, where the package tour didn't go to, and did some glacier hiking and saw a lot of waterfalls and whatnot. So I had a great time, and I was even able to meet some very interesting people. Our tour guide was actually a really well-known artist, a landscape artist in Iceland. She has galleries in San Francisco and New York.
Painter, photographer? Or?
Yeah, painter, really, really good painter. And she was a really cool person. I got to know her pretty well and met her friends and her family and everything. And also I attended the Startup Iceland conference, the second annual Startup Iceland conference. I met a few entrepreneurs from the area.
Is this like a startup nation, startup weekly sort of?
Yeah, it's a little bit more formal. They're trying to attract talent to Iceland and trying to grow their industry. The island of Iceland only has 320,000 people.
Wow.
And about 200,000 or more live in the Reykjavik capital area. So it's
the
not
land
very
mass
big.
is enormous.
That's half the population of Detroit, like it's pretty amazing. So I saw the president speak there, met some cool entrepreneurs. There was an editor from TechCrunch that came to talk. And then the online entrepreneurial community we're both a part of, the Dynamite Circle. I even contacted ahead of time the only member that lives in Iceland, met up with him. We ended up talking for about 5 hours at his house over beers,
Awesome.
just about the current entrepreneurial climate in Iceland and what he's doing. He's actually one of the founders of the craft brewing movement in Iceland. So
Was he born in Iceland?
Born and raised in Iceland. Yep. He's got 2 kids, and he lives in a house. And he's a younger guy. He's about 30 years old, and really cool dude. And I enjoyed meeting him. I always enjoy meeting with the locals and kind of getting their take on things and having them show me the good spots and whatnot. So yeah, it was about 3 weeks in Iceland, and I had a great time.
Sweet. How many days now before you fly out? In a couple other days, right?
Yeah, I'll be out 4 days or so from now. Let's see, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Yeah, 4.5 days from now, I'll be flying out to Portland, staying with some friends. Then we've got the World Domination Summit conference that we'll both be at for a while.
Have you been to WDS before?
I have not. I've known about it since it started 3 years ago, but every year I've been out of country. Last year I was in Africa doing my Subaru charity rally, and the year before I was doing something else, so I've never been able to actually attend until this year.
Nice. How would you describe WDS, like, for those? I always find that people are like, they're like, oh, where are you going? I'm like, I'm going to World Domination Summit. They're like, sounds like a bunch of people like, let's take over the world kind of thing.
It's either that, or I've also gotten, and based on the Facebook forum too, other people have heard this. Either that, or it's like some sort of like dominatrix S&M type thing. I've also heard.
Don't tell about all the companies. No, yeah. The way
I enjoy telling people what I'm doing, like exactly why I'm going over to the West Coast, for the WDS World Domination Summit, just to see the reaction and to like see what they think of that as being. It's actually kind of fun to just kind of throw that at people.
The way that I explain it is I mentioned Chris Gilliboo, and I'm like, oh, the guy who runs the event is this guy, Chris Gilliboo, who before he was 35, he visited every country in the world, and he lives a really interesting lifestyle. So it's a bunch of, there's artists, there's creatives, there's entrepreneurs, like nonprofit, you get all different walks of life. But I think the underlying theme is people trying to live life in a unique, interesting, people trying to do something great, do something cool. I think you get movie makers, all different kinds of people out there.
I'd agree with you. Like it's basically that. Of course, I don't have any firsthand experience, but from what people have told me, it seems like it's half people that are already kind of doing that life, and half people that are aiming to do it. And so the people that are aiming to do it, it's great for them to be there to get motivation and to learn from the people that are already doing it. And then also a lot of the people that are already doing that kind of thing love helping out other people and kind of growing our cult of people, if you will, that are into this location independent lifestyle, entrepreneurship. You've got artists and bloggers and authors and life coaches and yoga people. Like there's a lot of different things you can do to be location independent if that's what you choose to do.
Yeah.
And it's not just for people that want to do that, but it's just for people that want to be around amazing people, and they have talks scheduled throughout the weekend from other amazing people that are doing pretty good on their own, well-known people in the community. And then you have parties at night.
Yeah,
that's of course why I'm going.
Yeah, there's a big cruise on like a 400-foot yacht, and it'll be pretty cool. It'll be pretty cool. So yeah, I was in prior to this, I was down in Mexico for a bit, just a quick little getaway. A friend came down, hopped on a cruise for a few days. It was quite nice. It was actually the first time I disconnected from the internet for like a whole 6 days. I brought my computer with me because I was going to leave it, and I was like, nah, I'll bring my laptop. And didn't even open it once. It was so nice. I realized how much I just do this too much, but sometimes you got to do this in order to
do the rest of it. Yeah, like I'll be. I want to get to that point later on this year. Like that's one of my goals is to actually be able to take a week off and set the autoresponder in my email and just do whatever, actually go and disconnect, like totally disconnect and not have to check email or Facebook or anything. Yeah. I haven't been able to do that in a long time, like you said. So
yeah, the nice part about technology is that you can build systems to automate a lot of these things, but you do have to do the building before you can enjoy the benefits.
Like we talked about last time, SOPs.
Yep. Standard operating procedures, getting things in place. Systems thinking is create it once, have it work over and over again. Simple philosophy. Have you heard of the Camino del Santiago in Spain?
Oh yeah, definitely. I've wanted to do that for a while.
Yeah, I have that on the list, and that's something where I read something about someone that went out there for like 30 or 40 days, no internet, no phone, just did pretty much is a walk from the Pyrenees Mountains between France and Spain, all the way over to, well, I don't know if I'm going left or right. I don't know if it flips around. You pretty much walk to the coast, to the opposite coast of to Spain. It's like
Atlantic to the Mediterranean, pretty much. Yeah.
Thanks for the eye.
for the geographically challenged.
For the geographically challenged. So we have two things we're going to talk about next: is how we got into travel, or do you want to talk about productivity tools and sort of tips?
Yeah,
like
I think travel is a good segue for productivity or tools to manage your business on the road, because you, like we were just talking about, you have to sometimes run a business on the road like that, and so there's different things that I'm sure we've both kind of come across during our travels that help us with that.
Yeah, and I think that these tools, you don't have to necessarily have a business, you don't have to be entrepreneurial, whatever. These tools, I just think they're life tools in general that just help. Productivity, I think, is something that everybody can pretty much work on. Do you want to talk about the productivity tools, and then get into the origin of travels?
I say we do it the other way around. So how did you get into traveling, my friend?
A buddy of mine, AL, shout out to AL, back in 2007, he was a guy who was a college roommate, and he was looking for some people. He had already gone on maybe like 1 or 2 international trips, and he came up to me. He's like, "Hey, I'm trying to get some people. I'm trying to get someone to come with me to Spain. No one's going." He's like, "You want to take a trip to Spain?" I was like, "Yeah, sure, I'm in." He's like, "You sure?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm in. Let's do it." And then just like he bought the tickets, and I sent him money, and I was in Spanish 101 at the time, so very basic level introductory Spanish. Hola, ¿cómo estás? Just simple things like that. So went to Spain in 2007. Went to England and Spain, and just had an awesome experience. And it was fun too, because we didn't stay at a hotel or anything like that. I think we stayed with one of his friends, even in Ibiza, which is one of the islands off of Spain. We were in the south in Andalusia and hiked mountains. And the one place we stayed in called, is it Granada? I'm forgetting. Anyway, somewhere in the Andalusia region of southern Spain, the town that we were in was so close to the mountains that all of the water that came out of the shower, the sink, everywhere, it was just natural spring water from the mountains, which was just awesome. And so that sort of experience definitely sparked my interest. I think in a prior show I talked about how I got attacked by 30 prostitutes in Las Ramblas in Barcelona.
And not in a good way either.
No, not in a good way. And I had an interesting hiking experience, one that it was kind of scary. Not that I almost fell, but I was in the life-threatening situation where I had to climb this 50-foot rock wall, thinking that when I went to the top, I could go over it. And I ended up having to do this descend. And long story short, I thought I was going to die for an hour, but ended up being able to hold my calm and get down okay. So I had some really interesting experiences. And I was also really interested in Latin culture. And speaking Spanish is something that I've been learning and been practicing for a number of years. And that was in September. And then in December, over the holidays from university, I took a solo trip and I flew down to Nicaragua and did a full-blown immersion thing and lived with a family for a few weeks that didn't speak any English, took Spanish classes, hiked volcanoes, swam in lagoons. And so after that, I was hooked.
Yeah, I was actually looking at doing the same thing, the whole Nicaragua immersion thing, where you go to a language school up in the mountains, and it's all expenses paid. You have to pay your tuitions about $1,000 a month, and you get 20 hours of class time a week, and you get 3 meals a day and a place to stay. And yeah, it was really cheap. All
that's wrapped into the $1,000 a month. It's the lessons and the lodging.
Yeah,
it was interesting. Yeah, so I went in 2007. The school I went to, I think I paid about, I don't know, I want to say, I don't really remember, maybe $80 to $100 per week. Mm-hmm. The best part I remember is that I lived with the family. So there was a guy who was my age. There was his mother, his little brother, and then his uncle or something lived there, and the grandmother. I forget. It was a really neat place. And what was my point? I was just sharing. I totally just
you're saying the money that I spent.
The money, yeah. All right. So I had my own private bedroom, queen size bed. The mother literally, she woke me up, not woke me up, but every morning she waited for me to wake up, made me breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and it was $77 a week.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. It was nice to be able to go out. There were 2 other people from the States who were there. And there was one night we were out with like 5 or 6 people, and it was nice to just be like we were out doing some sort of salsa or Latin dancing and drinking the local rum and having some beers and some, like, I don't know, some snacks. And it was nice to just, a few of us picked up the tab, and it was like $18 split 3 ways. And we just, we covered like drinks and food for like 6 people. And I was like, so ever since that, for the most part, every year I've taken a trip somewhere to Central, South America, Caribbean, so that I can immerse myself further in Spanish and kind of get over that hump of learning.
And when was that? When you first went? When you went to Spain, and then when you went to Nicaragua?
Both Spain and Nicaragua were 2007. Spain was like in September, and then around Christmas, I actually spent Christmas in Nicaragua in 2007 with the family. So I spent Christmas and New Year's solo in Nicaragua. It was really cool.
Okay, cool. As for myself, I'd say I was actually just talking to my buddy Brandon about this over beers yesterday. I talk about a lot of things over beers.
It's like the 5-hour beers, right? You just like the conversation just goes.
And I'm actually doing that again tonight. I'm meeting up with another buddy of mine here in Detroit and kind of going over some stuff with him. But I always had grandparents that were interested in travel, and they were traveling to some far-flung destinations, at least back in the day, in the 80s when my grandpa retired, my grandpa and my grandma went to China and USSR and places like that not a lot of people were going to, and they'd always bring back money and stuff. So when I saw them in Florida, every winter, I'd hear their stories and get some money to take back with me from these foreign lands I knew nothing about. And when I was 13, I had an opportunity to do a student ambassador program to China for 3 weeks. And so China was the first place I ever visited, and I had a great time there, and I thought it was so awesome. And then between 13 and 18, I didn't do any international travel except for like a week-long family trip.
When you were 13, you went to China for a few weeks?
Yeah, I went to China without my parents, just with a group of kids. Wow. And then we had some chaperones, and we went all over the eastern part of China, and I learned a little bit of Chinese, and met with a lot of students over there, and had all the traditional food and whatnot. It was really cool experience for a 13-year-old to have. I was very lucky to get that. And then I went to a quick trip to Barbados with my family when I was 16 or something like that. But when I was 18, and you can find kind of a synopsis of this on my website at scottbrills.com. But I went to
you have a timeline?
I don't have a timeline. I don't usually think people are that interested in it. I just kind of have like the synopsis of it. I know some people have like their about pages, and it's just like pages and pages long, and like, I don't know, maybe every once in a while somebody wants to like really know about you, like if they want to stalk you or something. But most of the time people don't care. Like, just give them a few paragraphs. And if there's anything I've learned over doing a lot of internet marketing and whatnot, it's that most people do not want to read. They want pretty pictures, they want video or maybe sound. But if you just are like, here's like 10 pages of text, I would say less than 10% of people are going to read that. Yeah. So I try to go for the majority of people and just kind of keep it short and simple. Nice. But anyway, I was 18. I got an opportunity to do a living, working, studying program in Japan for a year. Did that, had a great time, and then I was hooked. I came back. I was like, okay, how do I get back to Japan? That was just my focus.
And you were there
for years.
You were there for 12 months.
9 months, then 3 months in here getting ready for the program.
Wow.
In Michigan. So
it's a great extended. That's long term. That's long.
Oh yeah,
travel.
Yeah. Like I went over there. I was working as a waiter on a replica steam wheeler in the Japan's biggest lake.
Steamwheeler?
It was Biwako. It's like a Mississippi steamwheeler.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, with the big.
Yeah. You've seen it like Disney World, right?
No, I've seen pictures of them.
So I went over there. I learned Japanese. I started DJing, and I had a lot of firsts over there. My first drink, my first club, my first bar, my first serious girlfriend, et cetera, et cetera. And so it kind of changed my life. I came back a changed person, and like I liked spicy food now. I like all these different types of ethnic foods. My mom was like, "What happened to you?"
Yeah.
And So after I got back, like my main goal was like, okay, I got to find some way to either just like go straight to Japan or to finish up college quick. I ended up finishing up college really quickly. And by the time I did that, I had already built up my business over here, and I knew I'd have to give it up if I wanted to go to Japan and teach English like a lot of my other friends were doing.
Yeah.
So I decided to stay here and just do like mini vacations every year, 2 or 3 months at a time in Japan. So I ended up going to Japan 8 more times, usually once a year, to visit with friends and whatnot. And so it wasn't until 2008 that I started broadening my travel plans to include things like, Turkey, which I went on another cultural exchange through Rotary Club. And then I went on a backpacking trip through Europe with my girlfriend. And after that time, then the next year I did the Mongol Rally, where I drove from England to Ulaanbaatar, or at least tried to. And so it's been kind of ramping up since Japan. It's just kind of like had a trajectory upward, and I'd be gone 2.5 months out of the year. I didn't have the money or the time, and then I've been building up my life to a point where I do have the money and time, and now I'm gone. Last year 8-9 months out of the year. This year I'm shooting for about 6 months. I'm trying to keep that ratio at about half play, half work, if at all possible. And that's why I have to get those SOPs and stuff done. I got to get systems to do this so that I'm not always at the center of my business and always having to check email and make phone calls and whatnot. Have other people do that for me or have it automated. That's the key.
Yeah, no, it's a nice quote about entrepreneurship, is that entrepreneurs they spend a few years doing what most people aren't willing to do, so that they can spend the rest of their life doing what most people can't do. So.
Yeah, if there's one thing that it's taken me a long time to learn, is that you can't scale yourself. So if you're an engineer, or if you are a lawyer, or you are a doctor, a well-paid professional, that's great, but you're going to be working up until the time you retire.
Yeah.
And I mean, some people are cool with that. I know a friend of mine is a surgeon in the UK, and she loves being a surgeon, and she just goes to work and she loves doing it. She loves helping people. She loves the active surgery and everything. And I know lawyers that are like that and whatnot. And so that's just what they want to do. But me, I like what I do, but I don't like doing it all the time. I like having fun as well. So that's why, it's important to me to get these things running on their own, or finding some way to sell a product, or to get it off of relying on me. Because my web development business, was really built on me, instead of built on my company. And so I didn't really learn that lesson quick enough. And so
it takes time. You got to learn through experience.
Yeah, it's a learning experience. It sometimes it takes 10 years to learn a simple lesson.
I always tell people, I'm like, look, you don't need to have a complete clarity on what your direction or path or vision is, but if you have some curiosity and interest and you start moving in that direction, as long as you don't give up and like just quit altogether on trying to live the life the way you want, I think that the lessons and the travel experiences, like you said, I find that they build upon themselves, like just the way they need to over time. Like this travel experience, you learn a couple things, and maybe you get into a situation where you get locked out of your apartment, and you have to think of a creative way to get, like, every experience stacks on the next, so that years later when you're driving across multiple countries, you're not just going from not being a traveler to doing that. You've built up some context, and some experience. Yeah.
You're learning, you're progressing. Just like one of my favorite quotes, learn as if you're going to die tomorrow, or live as if you're going to die tomorrow, learn as if you're going to live forever.
Yeah.
I believe that was Gandhi that said that. It's kind of a cool quote. Yeah, that's what I did, and so I'm still. I just made a list in my my Evernote application, list making application, and it's all the countries I have to visit. And I have them broke up into groups where I can attack multiple countries at once.
Yeah.
And I've got a goal now of reaching at least 100 countries by the time I'm 35.
Okay,
and
cool.
I said originally I wanted to do 30 countries by the time I was 30. 30 countries on 7 continents by the time I was 30.
And you did that, I remember.
And I did over 60 by the time I was 30. And so I'm hoping if I set a goal of 100, I'll have, maybe 110, 120, something like that in the next few years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it makes sense to do them all. To try.
I look at them as like Pokemon or something like that, just collect them all. That's I've always had hobbies. I've always liked collecting things, and I've kind of moved away from collecting physical things to collecting experiences or countries, or kind of like notches on your life belt of
Yeah.
accomplishments, Ned.
Yeah, no, that definitely makes sense. Yeah, I've been to about a dozen countries, and probably in the next few, within the next, I'm still debating here once I get my braces off. I'm bound to, my orthodontist is in Pennsylvania. Once those things are off.
But orthodontics are very good and cheap in places like Thailand also.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, it's weird because I did bounce around to a few different orthos, and like, if you go somewhere and you're bringing you have your braces on from someone else who put them on, they want to take them off and redo them. Like, they don't like to do adjustments off of someone else that had done it. But,
right. It's like someone else's masterpiece. They don't want to screw around with it.
Yeah. And what I find is like this dentist says this guy does it the wrong way, and that guy says they do it the wrong way. And I was like, didn't know who to believe. So
yeah, true. I've heard that a lot. And I went through the whole braces thing for about 7 years when I was growing up. So I feel your pain.
It's not too bad.
My teeth were jacked up. I need everything. I need the braces, braces twice, retainer twice, palate widener, headgear, like not the stuff like during the day. That'd be really bad. I knew people like that, but like at night when you're sleeping, like rubber bands, like everything. I did everything. And basically like they're talking about cracking my jaw to like do surgery and stuff like that. It was messed up. Like I had a messed up jaw and teeth and everything, but now I got it. It's like, yeah, I can see, it's pretty good.
It looks pretty good.
I got a pretty good jaw now. Thank you, Mom and Dad, for spending thousands and thousands of dollars on the orthodontics. I hated it at the time, but I can say I'm happy with it now.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because I knew that I needed to get braces for a few years. Like my bottom teeth they've now since spaced out. It's been 6 months, but I had a lot of crowding on the bottom. And
me too.
My two front teeth were starting to like rotate. You couldn't really, people wouldn't notice, but like if you looked at photos, you'd be like, oh wow, it was getting worse and worse and worse. But typically most people get braces in their teenage years, and it's a different experience. But I kind of approached it with much more sort of awareness. Like, most people don't get braces as an adult, and I find that most people won't, even if they need braces. They're like, it looks too stupid, or I can't do it because of my work, or because of blah, blah, blah. So it's interesting to have braces, and I was cool with it when I got it, and now like I just rock them. Like I realized the trick that the reason that people look funny in braces is they try to hide it. They'll smile and they'll be like,
that's what I always did. Yeah, when I was growing up, I would smile like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it just makes your whole face just look crazy. So no, I realized like right from day one, I just practiced just being like, just huge beaming smiles. So
productivity tools
and traveling. So this one, I just uncovered. I came across this about a month ago, and I've been using it, and it's awesome. It's focusatwill.com, and it's basically a music player. I should have pulled up the list, but I'll just try to paraphrase it. It's kind of like Pandora, but the music doesn't really have. It's mostly all instrumentals. I don't think there's any lyrics or any vocals. And you pick sort of like a mood where it's like classical, up-tempo, ambient. Maybe there's 6 or 7 moods. And it's a company based out, I think they're out in San Francisco. And it's a team of like 15 people, like sound architects and engineers and a couple Silicon Valley guys. And they studied productivity, and they kind of go with that 100 minutes, like an hour, is like a good extended period of time to.
Right.
So they studied like brain waves and different things like that. And the different, like the key or the overtones and undertone, I don't know, the different pieces in music and melody, they sort of stack and build upon themselves in the way that our brain, like they say it takes about 20 minutes to get into something, and then when you get into it, like you're really in the flow, and then so the music kind of goes with it. And it's paid. You can pay like $40 a year, or you can listen for free at 100 minutes per clip. And then afterwards you can just say, yep, let me listen again for free for 100 minutes. So like when I wake up in the morning, I have some client work that I got to do or a website, pop that in, and then boom. And so that's been, that's my first tool, Focus at Will. It's like it's Pandora for productivity.
Cool. What else you got? Any other productivity hacks?
Well, here's an interesting, so I have 2 other pieces of software I'll mention, but here's a hack that most people don't think, or I'll mention the Google Calendar. So Google Calendar, or you could use Outlook too, pretty much any calendar system, but typically the way that people think of a calendar is like I have a dentist appointment, or I have to meet up with so-and-so for coffee, etc. In Google Calendar, you can create like different calendars, like personal and workout and business. I have one that's just called Bang It Out. And the default reminder will send me a notification 1 minute before the time I set the event. So pretty much what I do for that is like, let's say you and I are talking and you're like, hey, can you, zip me that email on Friday? So a good thing about SOPs or systems thinking is to not have stuff in my head and just have it automated. I'll jump into my Google Calendar and I'll just go to Friday. And let's say I want to email you at 1 o'clock. I'll go to the Bang It Out calendar 1 o'clock and I'll just say email Scott. And I just hit boom. And then on Friday at 1 o'clock, I get an email notification that just says email Scott. And I use that for I use that for all kinds of things. Like every month I track my finances. I pay my credit cards twice a month. All that's in Google Calendar. Those are just reminders.
I should do that too. I don't have a separate calendar for reminders, so I just put all my reminders on my regular calendar. And sometimes I'm like, what, I've got something to do now? And it's like, oh, it's just a reminder to like make a phone call or something like that.
Yeah, sometimes my calendar was like that. You see all this stuff over there and it would be like, only 2 of them are appointments and the rest are like tasks or things. Yeah. So I use Google Calendar for, sometimes there's support forms because I do a lot with websites. I'll have to post to a support form. And some of them are like really crappy. You don't get an email notification when they reply. Yeah. So I'll publish the thing, and then I'll copy and paste the URL into a calendar reminder for 3 days later, and I just don't think about it. So I use it for all kinds of stuff. So just making use of a calendar for task-oriented things and then separating that from appointments. And a funny thing, too, because I do a lot of screen sharing in Skype, I see a lot of people use their computer. Like I watch people use a computer for multiple hours every week, and most people have horrible digital organization skills. Like they'll save I'll send them a photo and they'll just like save it to like, they don't. So basically this productivity hack is just called digital organization, which is just thinking about the files on your computer as in like a hierarchy. Like you have your main hard drive and then you have like maybe personal photos, then you have like website stuff, then you have like business 1, business 2, family, and then within those you have subfolders, and within those you have subfolders. Basically, my productivity track is when in doubt, make another folder. Like you can't have more. You can't have too many folders, so to say. So I have some other stuff, but do you want to share a few, and then I'll jump to the other 2? I feel like you might mention one of them.
So I would say my music thing lately has been SoundCloud. SoundCloud, it's a place for artists to kind of upload their own music, and you can listen to it for free, and just kind of has a player built into the website. And I like that because I found that if I can listen to like 1 or 2 hour long DJ sets, the DJs will actually just publish it themselves, and so you can kind of subscribe to your favorite DJs.
Oh, cool.
And so I've been doing, like, I used to do it a lot back in the day when I was into like trance and electronic music. I would listen to DJ sets, and I've gotten back into that lately. But I've just been listening to like the same stuff over and over. I mentioned it a few episodes ago, like where I was listening to, I think it was something. I think it was John Digweed and Sasha, something like that, some old school DJs. Well, now I could get new stuff on a regular basis just by using SoundCloud. And I could listen to it for free, and it'll just play it. There's no advertisements or anything. It's pretty great. So I've been using that for my music. And
Pandora with the advertisements is killing me. I mean, I don't use it enough, so I don't want to pay the. It's so funny.
I used to use Pandora, cheap. Yeah, and I think even if you pay, Pandora still has ads, I believe. Yeah, or there's like less of them or something like that. So for the music, that's what I'm doing. And then for productivity, I would say Rescue Time is a good thing to have. I know a lot of friends of mine have been using that as of lately, and I had it before and I uninstalled it and I reinstalled it again recently. And I'm kind of like, some friends kind of check in. They're like, hey, what was your productivity score this week? Because it kind of tracks what application you have open to see, okay, what was very distracting, like Facebook, what was like neutral, like maybe email, what was very productive, like, and I'm trying to think, like you could actually set different websites and whatnot to be in different areas.
Yeah, so it may not time like tracks your internet and your computer productivity, and like if you're in Microsoft Word for X amount of time, it'll track that as
like Word would be probably productive. Twitter, you could change things. Like for instance, my website scottbrills.com, I count that as work, as part of like my personal brand, and it doesn't know that, so it just says neutral. And so I actually went into the settings, and this is a free account too. you can actually go in the settings and change it to productive.
Yeah.
So it'll say like what windows you had open, what sites you were on, and things like that. Like the Skype call, it may say the Skype call is neutral, but I would say, you know, Skype. Usually when I'm on Skype, it's for doing business type stuff or the podcast or whatnot. So I would change that. And then if you pay a few bucks a month, you can get a different account where you can get more in-depth information and whatnot. But the free one has been good for me so far. Other than that, Dropbox for storing files and sharing files. Yeah. Even with the free account, I don't even pay any money for that either, although I might in the near future. I know it's not much to get 100 gigs of space, but right now I've got like 10 gigs through different sign-up specials I've done. I've been able to increase my storage space. And I usually use that when I'm storing files I want to share between my computers. I've got a desktop, which I'm on right now, and I've got a laptop. And some files I always want to change between the computers. I just keep them in Dropbox, and it's automatically synced between the two. And you can also just right-click on the file and go to copy public link and throw that in an email or a Skype session and allow someone else to access that file.
Yeah.
So that's very useful. Evernote, which I mentioned not too long ago, maybe about 15 minutes ago. Evernote is a cool note-taking application. Before, I would just use TextPad, and I'd make all these notes. They'd be all over my desktop, and then I'd be on my laptop computer, and I'd be like, crap, all my notes are on my desktop. And I could either put them in Dropbox and have access on both areas, but with Evernote, it does the same thing where it syncs between computers, so you can actually access it on your phone or access it on your computer or laptop, wherever, and get access to your notes. So whenever I've been making notes on like presentations or to-do lists, or like the list I just shared with you, good WordPress plugins, I just always throw it in Evernote, and it's synced, and you're able to share it. And it's just like kind of a good place to keep all your notes in
note
one
gathers,
area.
but it label that things have like keywords attached to them or labels and categories.
You can search through it.
Yeah, it helps kind of take a bunch of disorganized files and puts it into an organized system.
And again, with that also, I'm on the free plan. You can pay a little bit of money for a few more features and no advertising. But for all the stuff I mentioned, I'm just using the free accounts, and it saves me a lot of time.
Nice. Any other tools you have?
I think that's all for right now. Maybe next time we'll talk about travel tools, like getting stuff done on the road, because I've got a few things like that, but I think I'd just be going on for another half hour.
Yeah,
so we'll split up. I'll give some more goodies next time for running your business on the road.
I think another productivity hack is deactivate Facebook. I think that's a good thing for people to try it out for about a week. You can deactivate your Facebook account. Just Google deactivate Facebook, and it doesn't delete any of your stuff, but it literally just looks like you've just sort of disappeared from the Facebook world, because a lot of times it's very easy to get addicted to that sort of drip feed kind of thing. And then I find that by deactivating it, even if you go back later and then activate it, you're not so addicted to it. You've been able to sort of detach in a way.
One of the, I think maybe it was on the talk that I sent you with Neil Strauss and Tim Ferriss.
Yeah.
I think they may have been talking about this, where Tim Ferriss is an author and Neil Strauss is an author. They're both really good authors, and they're saying, what are your productivity hacks? And Neil Strauss said that he actually gives his cell phone to somebody else.
Yeah.
And he will even set he'll set passwords. Or he'll have someone else set passwords. Yeah. And he has to actually go to this person. He tells the person, hey, don't give it to me if I'm just trying to check Facebook or whatnot. I say that because I can't just shut down Facebook, because I manage events with it. I remember people's birthdays. Some people only contact me through Facebook. Yeah. And so I can't shut it off. But what you can do, I think they talked about this in the interview video, is, and we'll link to that, is they block it off for certain parts of the day. So let's say block it off till noon or block it off till the evening. And there are actually tools you can get. Yeah, I think even browser plugins you can get for Firefox or Chrome that it'll restrict access to Facebook during predefined times and whatnot. I think that's a good thing, because I noticed, I was talking with somebody recently that I used to have Facebook on my frequently used bookmarks toolbar in my browser, and I would always just click on that. Like when it was involuntary. It's the craziest thing. You have a free second. You're like, Facebook.
Facebook's like crack cocaine at times.
Facebook. It really is. It's super addictive and super time consuming, and it's generally a waste of time.
Yeah.
And so I got rid of it. But now both my browsers have this thing where you open up a new tab and it has a bunch of like frames of the recently used websites, and I find myself opening up a new tab and going to it whenever I want to access Facebook. So it's like my mind is wired to just go to Facebook.
Yeah.
Whenever I don't have something specific in mind that I have to be working on right now, it just goes to Facebook. It's like involuntary. I think I was talking to my buddy about it, and I found myself going to Facebook while I was talking about it. I was like, what the hell? I'm doing it right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think I have not installed it yet. But I think I will install it, the Facebook blocking thing. So I'll only be able to go on for a little bit of time a day during predefined times. I think that would be best for me.
It's what's interesting is I'm on the road right now, and I kind of have to. I spent a bunch of change last month, and I had some upcoming things. So I'm kind of like in this, which is interesting because in the past I've spent too much time on Facebook. I haven't even been attached to it. What I'll do now, actually, because I realize the addiction thing is the news feed. I might jump in a couple times during the week, and especially now I've been so detached, which is a really interesting feeling. Like I don't even care about Facebook. So I'll log in, and then with my hand, I'll go like this and block the screen, and I only look to the upper right-hand corner where I have notifications and messages. And if I have, and then I click on the notifications, most of it's crap. And then if I have a message, I read the message, and then I reply to it, and then I don't look at the newsfeed, and I close out the browser. So
that would be the low-tech way of doing it. That's
the low-tech way. But
it's effective.
The tool that I use is called Antisocial. I think we'll link it up, but I think it's antisocial.cc. It's an application where you can block. You can say, hey, I want to block Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, or any sort of social non-productivity tools, and you can just set a timer basically from 5 minutes up to 8 hours. And you can't access that site until the timer is up. So that's a good way to kind of start. And then if you want to go hardcore, from the same developers of Antisocial is the application called Freedom, which Neil Strauss mentioned in an interview. I've used Freedom a lot. I have both of these. Freedom is basically so Antisocial blocks social media sites. Freedom just blocks the entire internet. You can't access the internet. So for example, right now I'm in a like an advertising and marketing course where every morning I write for 1 hour. So I make sure that I don't go on. Now I can just.
Great for writers. Yeah, great for writers.
Writers or anybody that has to if you have to produce. And I think too, I realized in the past, a lot of days that wouldn't be productive. The days for me that I have really productive days is that the very first activity I do is a production activity rather than a consumption activity. So if I wake up and I go into my email right away, I'm consuming. Or if I wake up and I check it
or reacting.
Reacting or consuming, just sort of, it kind of is like, it's like that crack cocaine. You take a little bit and then you're taking a little bit.
A few hours later, you're still doing stuff that you got in your email that morning. Yeah, that morning. So.
Exactly. Yeah. So I hit up, do the writing, and then I'll do 2 or 3 hours of just billable time where I'm, say, working on the client side right now. I'll just do that. And then I'll check an email and sort of brush that up. Let me see if there's anything else I have.
Hey, we're getting short on time.
Yeah, we'll run out. We'll wrap it up. We just hit over. I thought it was quicker. So one thing I do. Go ahead.
Yeah. I was just. Yeah. Go ahead.
All right. I'll go. So, because both of us are pretty digital, flexible, mobile. A big thing is that I use paper and pad a lot, but for things that then need to go into storage, I don't keep them in paper. I scan everything, so I have no physical. I used to have file systems and all this crap, but if you're trying to travel and move around, they just take up a lot of weight. But for me, sometimes in working, I just can't work right on the computer because it doesn't. For me, I use paper for process, and then I scan for storage. So that's another sort of productivity hack, you could call it.
Yeah. Just go non-digital.
Yeah, but I use the paper because sometimes in the writing, by writing, I feel like you interact with the material differently than just typing it on the computer. It sort of is more. I don't exactly.
I always prefer that. When I'm at a conference or something like that, having a pad of paper and just writing down stuff. I think it's quicker, and you're able to. I think if you're doing digital, there's things that you try to just abbreviate everything and shorten everything, and sometimes you don't get. You just kind of pass up putting down some information that you normally would be writing down if you were doing it by hand. It just took a few scribbles.
Yeah. Cool. So we talked about what's coming up. Anything else?
Yeah, I was going to say, usually we talk about what's coming up, but in this instance, we're both going to be meeting up in Portland for the conference. But one thing that we did plan, and this is, of course, a little teaser for way in the future, but we both signed up to do a little adventure in India next April, and I think I want to actually interview the founder of the guy that put that together in one of our shows before then, and maybe we'll get into it more. But I wanted to say that we've got this really cool adventure coming up next April that we've already started planning on and whatnot. So stay tuned for more info on that.
Yeah, we'll say the details for next time. It's going to be a pretty epic adventure. So yeah, post Portland, I'm going to come back to Miami, and then in August, I'm taking a trip with a friend for probably about 8 or 9 days. We're thinking Central America. We haven't figured it out yet. I haven't been to Central America. I didn't go. I usually go again. I go to a Latin place like every year, and I don't think I've gone. So I need to get somewhere, practice my Spanish, and be in some beautiful weather. So I think I'm doing that in August, and then I have kind of my feelers open because in December I'm not going to I'm not going to stay in Miami. So I have pretty much everything is open for the most part. I kind of want to stay within somewhere between Pacific and Eastern time, but I might go down in
Colorado.
Yeah, no, I might drive down to Mexico or Costa Rica and stay there for about maybe 6 months or more or less until I get my break. Because I can still go back to PA. It's relatively close, and then after that, just going to venture my way down Central America. So
nice.
That's it for today's show. Anything else you want to add?
That's it.
Cool. Well, hey guys, if you're listening and watching, we appreciate it. Any feedback, comments, questions, anything, you let us know.
Sounds good.
All right,
ciao.
I'll catch you out in Portland in a few.
All right, see you soon.
All right, man. See you.
Bye.